idea was color blindness, like from the very beginning. Although we did have slavery. I'll be back.
Well, see ya.
Oh, I was gonna introduce Papa to the show. All right, go make your cocktail. Daddy needs a cocktail.
Oh wow.
You're gonna
You're
go
definitely
that way?
gonna trip over that wall.
That's the way you're gonna
That
go.
Just move the
was
light.
an interesting
Yeah, it was-
way to organize the lights.
All right, I forced went live because the boys were on a roll. They weren't stopped talking.
Oh, so we're live.
yeah, and
Okay.
it's 5:07.
Yeah.
We're late.
It's time to be live. Armand's making a cocktail.
I'm in business mode. Back is to hide. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the pod. We're live like we are every Wednesday on YouTube. So if you're listening, come join on YouTube. All the links are at alfalfapod.com. What's up to everyone in the chat? I saw Basil in there. What's going on? Dan,
Oh,
Cam, what's up?
What
Yeah,
is
thanks
that
for
emoji?
joining us live. They got all new kinds of emojis in there.
that looks kind of sexual in a bad way.
That's
Or maybe not. I
It's a
don't mean
Rorschach
to.
test.
I don't mean to.
It's
Kink,
just
I don't mean to kink shame. Sorry. Jeez.
What's going on, boys?
Oh, so much.
Red
So
and green on the
much.
screen, or what? Is that the name of the week?
Oh, are you talking about charts?
Yeah, I don't know. I figure
Oh.
that's usually what's going on in your world.
You're
But
really
if not, tell me more.
You're pigeonholing Steven.
Well, I just
He went
it's
to
like
a he went to a soccer game.
Oh yeah, you went to the new San Diego Football Club.
I know. I did. It was great. It was fun. Soccer's the best. Sorry, football.
New Formula One season's coming. Starts tomorrow. Practice. I'm so excited. Oh,
Where
I
do they open?
Australia.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Melbourne. Melbourne?
I think so. Yeah. And just finished up the Netflix Formula One documentary of last season. Perfect transition into the new season.
That F1 documentary kind of like set the tone for all other sports.
Yeah.
Like now everyone has to like.
Did you see
create
this
that.
new one up? It's called Polo, and it's like
Oh, like the horses?
yeah. So I'm like, okay, maybe stop at tennis.
A
Polo.
little too far.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, is Papa
Dad-
back?
Dad's back. Well, he's navigating the studio obstacles.
Just move the light. It's very light. It's very light.
want to disturb the set.
Well, can I get camera 2?
Look who's back.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, Dad.
we're excited. Everyone's
So-
healthy.
So brave.
You did it.
You did so much work,
You
Armand.
did. You
did
did
it.
so much.
I did it.
It's been a hard 9 months for
I
you.
can finally shed this baby weight. Oh, I had real like pregnancy symptoms.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Did
It's
you
a real
gain
thing.
sympathy weight?
Yeah, and like couldn't sleep well and body aches and all kinds of things. Probably like 1% of what Erica
Wow, I'm really
felt, but it was
glad
a
your
lot.
wife doesn't watch this because
Well, no, it's actually a compliment because it's like I was probably experiencing 1% of
Yeah.
what she did, and it was hard. So I'm like, damn, what were you experiencing?
well,
Yeah, women are machines, man. I don't know how they do it. They have way higher pain tolerance than we do. Way higher.
I can't believe you're here, by the way.
yeah. Thank you for adhering to the alfalfa paternity leave policy. 2 days, 2.5
Yeah.
days.
Eric, don't forget the policy.
Yeah, 2.5 days, bro.
It's a Nick
all you get.
policy.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Burns cracked the whip hard.
I
All right.
did 3 days for Rumi. So, 2.5 days. Sounds about right
Yeah.
for Roya.
Yeah, no paternity policy in a startup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
next one you're gonna be 4-hour turnaround time.
Yeah.
Laptop in the emergency room.
I think I'm done.
And
This
hold
is
the baby, little skin to skin, and we're
Yeah.
good. And goodbye.
What'd you
Yeah.
make there? What are you drinking on?
Old fashioned.
Mm.
Steven and I are drinking old fashions. We even found a Mandarin in the fridge, so it's complete.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I'm at the point where I'm just doing like a glass of old fashioned before the pod at this
I
point.
like this.
It's
Yeah.
great. I feel good.
Look at mine. It's huge.
But then what do you sip on after that's done? Do you have something to back it up?
He's staring at
No.
your beers over there.
No, I'm going to need a sipper. If
See,
anybody gets up, grab me a sipper.
I'm a sipper. I like to just have something to raise.
I would love if
Yeah.
I had like a Negro Modelo. That would be the best.
Mm.
Those are the
The
best.
lime. Should have brought some.
I'll make sure to stock those for you.
Have to
Sorry.
run.
Sorry, sir.
No, if you could do that, that'd be great. Actually, so much superfluous beef jerky. Like if we just
Dude, the amount of dry meat
That
in
stuff's
this office.
expensive. Like Nick could have like 100-pack of Negro Modelo's for
Yeah.
1/10 of the beef jerky that's out
Yeah,
there.
they love.
Sometimes
those
we get on
jerkies.
subscriptions and forget, and then someone doubles the subscription, and then we end up with like a pallet of Pellegrino, which has happened before. All right, well let's get into it. Let's give a shout out to our sponsor ZBiotics. So go to zbiotics.com/alfalfa. Check out the pre-alcohol. That's the one that these guys took before they started drinking today.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, it's a genetically engineered probiotic. It helps take care of that nasty toxin.
Acetaldehyde.
Yes, sir. That's the one that makes you feel like shit in the morning. So, the different what's it called? What's the thing the powder you put in your
I
drink?
was being prompted to say acetaldehyde.
Little hydration packets. Oh, electrolytes.
Electrolytes.
Yeah, electrolytes don't take care of that guy. And what's that holiday I don't celebrate? Oh, St. Patrick's Day. That's coming up. Big drinking holiday.
You don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day?
I don't know. Like that and Halloween, just kind of like leave town. Get out of town.
The fun ones.
The fun
We
ones.
used to rage for that in SF. I mean, we raged for everything in SF.
Any
That was
excuse.
just like any excuse.
Well, that's holidays coming up. So, yeah, it's a good time to try it. And if you don't like it, doesn't work for you, you can get your money back. So, yeah, make sure to use code alfalfa at checkout and get 15% off. And thanks, ZBiotics, for supporting the pod.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a flashback to like SantaCon in San Francisco.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the best ones.
Wait, what was the one I used to come up for? It was like a race.
Beta Breakers.
Beta
Beta
Breakers.
Breakers was
Yeah.
the best one.
Wow, that was fine form.
You know how long ago that was, bro?
Well, they probably still do it.
No,
But for
I
us-
mean, you and I like doing that
Yeah, that was a lifetime
over
ago.
a decade.
Yeah.
You're about to be a father.
Bro, 20
Are
years.
you ready?
2 decades.
Do you want to know what it's like?
Yeah, dude, I'm so ready. Okay, so pregnancy is the worst phase. Pregnant, like when your wife is pregnant and you can't help, you can't do anything. This sucks for everyone. There's no upside. I'm ready for like the real deal. Put me in, coach.
It's a lot of waiting. When people ask me about this whole, now being a dad thing again for the second time, you guys ever like go on a trip somewhere amazing? Like, for example, I remember like when Steven went on his like France trip, right? And he was like doing all the wine tasting and all this stuff.
Wait, which
like
one?
you go on a trip,
Yes.
and you come back and or it's like going and watching a great movie, and you come back and your friends who haven't been to that place are asking you about it, and you're like sitting and you're trying to explain all these little details of the experiences you had, the things you saw, the people you met, how your life will never be the same now that you've connected in this new way and opened your mind in this new way, and all this stuff, right? That's exactly what it's like to like talk to your non-parent friends about parenting. It's no offense, but it's like
No,
it's
I'd imagine.
basically a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. Like they just don't get it, and they never will, and they're staring at you like, "That's nice, that's really nice," but I have no idea what you're talking about. But that's what it's like. But okay, so can I share what the? Oh my god, what is that face?
I switched the camera to them when you said like my non-parent friends, but then I'm like a part of it
No,
too.
you're a part of it.
Yeah.
Was I looking at you weird?
Can I share? Yeah, it scared me. It was actually pretty scary. Can I share like, so the difference this time, like second child, I had a huge surprise. I posted about this in the parenting channel, so I need to deliver on this insight. So first baby arriving is a unbelievable, life-changing experience. I mean, Eric and I just talked for 30 minutes. I don't want to repeat too much of what I just told you, but it's like stepping through the wardrobe, and entering Narnia. Your life will never be the same, especially as a man. It's like this crazy feeling of like just leveling up and expanding your life to a level that you didn't know was possible. I felt like a boy until I got married, but way more like this profound shift into Armand the man, the adult, after having a baby. And the first time, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of that shift of like your identity, your values, your purpose. You have like this deeper purpose now. But the thing that just shocked me about having a second child that no one warned me about was, your baby's born and you're holding the baby and you're in the hospital for a few days and you're reconnecting, and you missed having that little just tiny, delicate baby, and you're just really embracing the skin to skin and the little moments, and they're so helpless and they need you. And then you get back home, and my daughter, Rumi, is 2, little over 2 now. And you get home, and it's like, Baba, Dada, and you pick her up for the first time, and it's just like, oh my God, you're huge. You're enormous. You're like, how did you get so big? Like, and you realize how heavy they are, because now you have something relative to, again, to compare it to. It's like it was a point on a graph that's been moving in front of your eyes without you realizing it, because you have no reference point. And she's getting bigger and bigger and bigger slowly over time. And so it becomes 30 pounds or whatever, 40 pounds. And you're just like, no big deal, you're getting big. But then you pick up a 7-pound baby, and you've been holding that baby for a couple days, and you come home, you pick up this child, and you're just like, oh, now I get it when people say time is going to fly
But
by.
then it also gives you that same relativity to your own life. You're like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she got older.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
Everything. It's shocking. And I was like not prepared for it at all. So, yeah. And then you start to look at your relationship, not your relationship, but your perception of your first child completely changes. You now view them as like, you're the big kid. Like, you're the older sister. Like, you kind of, I've already started noticing little things where I'm just like, you're growing up. It's time for you to grow up. Like, you got to help now. And she's like helping do diaper changes and helping feed
wild.
the baby and helping like with all these little things. And I'm just like, what is happening? You were the baby.
Wait,
you
your-
were my
your
baby.
2-year-old is helping change diapers.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
Had a
gotta
great
put 'em to
video
work.
yesterday.
That's-
And
that's
well,
efficient.
you also want to do that so that they don't feel like what happened to me. Like, you want them to feel useful, because if all the attention is going to the baby, it's just like, they're like, what about me? So part of it is like to incorporate.
I'll mention that
The
to the
older
baby next
child.
time I see him. All the trauma he caused you.
Yeah. So, it's did not expect it. So now to me, Rumi is like this big kid. I'm just like, what happened? But anyway, Roy is amazing. She's she's already very different. I can totally feel the personality and the difference. And Rumi is like the strongest will of anybody I know, like such a strong willpower and independence. And Roya is like already this like gentle, more, wants to be nurturing, really.
You can tell that
different.
already.
Yeah, yeah. Like when Rumi came out of the womb, she was like, no, I can do it myself. No, let me do it. Wanted independence from day one, and made it very clear when she needed something and wanted to tell you something. And it was like, this girl is like totally different. It's amazing how you're born with these innate characteristics. Like, I know so much of it is nurture, but there's a lot of nature at play too. So, yeah, it's been interesting, guys.
Well, can't wait to meet Roya, man.
Yeah.
Wait, where did Roya come from?
We evaluated a lot of names, we wanted like short names that were like culturally significant. So the name is Roya Isabella. So Persian first name Roya means dream. Latin middle name, just like Rumi Sophia, Roya Isabella. And so, we're like this half Persian Latina couple. So we wanted something like that. And I've always liked the name. It's simple. It's easy. It's impossible to mispronounce.
I like that you
Yeah.
have like the alliteration thing going on now.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Rumi and Roya.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Short, 4 letters.
We have 2 topics in the holster. That's it.
2.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Great. We can
You
take
can-
our time.
You can free
It'll
reign.
only be an hour and 50 minutes.
All right, so let's talk about Tesla crashing and burning, literally. So the Tesla stock is down over 50% in a few weeks. Teslas are being vandalized nationwide. People are shooting up Tesla offices, lighting charging stations on fire. Holy shit. And a few days ago, Trump bought a Tesla in front of the White House and declared attacks on the company would be classified as domestic terrorism. I didn't even see that whole event. All I saw was the meme of him being like, everything is computer. And I,
Oh my god!
I don't know what that is.
Everything computer, dude. That's
Okay,
my
I
new
saw
favorite
this on
video.
Twitter today. What is this even referencing?
Okay,
I
so
saw-
he like gets into the Tesla that he bought, where he's doing this weird. It was like, you remember when he bought like he had all the Goya stuff like last time. He was like, thumbs up, I love taco bowls and shit. Now it's just we're doing this with cars, I guess. But yeah, he does the thing. He bought like Kai like a car, and he gets into it, and he's just like, wow, everything is computer. And then like it just took off.
It's
Like,
funny because like, as a Tesla owner, I get what he's saying. There's no dashboard. There's nothing in there except for an iPad. Everything is computer. I get it. I get it.
So no, I didn't see him say this like initially, right? But I logged into X this morning, and I was just like, it was like when the JD memes happened, and I wasn't aware, and then I just opened up, and I was just like, what is happening? Just like these like cursed images, and then like I started seeing like everything is computer memes, everything computer, and I had no idea what was happening.
That's
and then I had
hilarious.
to figure it out, but now it is funny.
should I buy the Tesla stock? Looks juicy.
We gonna go to the stock first? I want to go into this like terrorism thing
You
first.
want to do that first?
Well, because I'm an owner.
So you guys weren't even aware this was happening.
I was unaware that what's happening. They're getting shot up in the dealership. Like, what's going on?
It's pretty gnarly. So there's been like just a lot of incidents nationwide of people like aggressively like vandalizing Teslas.
Swastikas, spray
yeah,
paint.
spray painting swastikas on them. The Cybertruck, as you might know, has like that Sentry Cam mode. So there's like actually like a lot of video of people like doing it because it has that. So it's
Yeah, I
kind
think
of like
they
an
all
interesting
the
thing.
models have that.
Do they all have that?
Mhm.
Oh, interesting. So there's a lot of video of it, and it's everything from people in like kind of protests. In the protest, there's the Tesla there, so they like light it on fire or something. Versus like some people who just were like driving in New York City, and then like, somebody goes up to the car and like bashes the window in.
shit.
So that's
Somebody
a different
literally
deal.
shot up a dealership.
Wait, so
in
you're just like
Seattle, I
minding
think.
your own business, and people will just come up to you and fuck with your Tesla, I guess.
Yeah,
Baseman is bad.
yeah. Somebody like lit a charging station on fire outside of Boston, I think.
What the fuck?
So
Nick, do we have audio?
I don't know. Do we?
What do you mean? Oh, like you want to play a video?
Yeah, I just want to provide my explanation. of-
Okay, well let's we can give it a go.
I just want to provide my explanation of what I think
Go
is
ahead.
going on.
Once
Here.
you hit it, it should go.
When it comes to getting to market in a more
Oh,
quick
no,
manner,
we have
Nowadays helps us move
Pause that.
quickly
You're
and
playing an ad.
efficiently.
YouTube
As we all
Premium.
know, social media moves really
Oh, God, I'm
Pause
joking.
it.
marketing moves really
There you go.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Thank you. That's all I have to say about this topic.
So
I think there's more to say about it than that, though. Right? Don't you
By
think
all
there's
means.
like it's like a legitimate? There's obviously like a legitimate like anger there for people, right?
Of course, yeah. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, I
Maybe-
just I
maybe you
think
think
people
it's-
are irrational and crazy, and this is just another indicator of how polarized things continue to be.
It's
you
tough
know?
because like you can't really separate like a genuine grievance versus like some opportunistic political, action, right? Like I don't know if they're doing this because like they don't really like Trump and Trump's associated with Elon. Elon supports Trump, or do they have like a real grievance? Like you see protests and vandalisms when there's like, this is our grievance, we want this fixed, but then
I can understand the grievance. What I'm wondering is like, is the politicization accelerating? I guess like when I'm looking back, Elon and Tesla was like a lefty favorite for its environmentally friendly narrative or whatever,
Well, and Elon himself was.
and Elon himself.
the irony is
So I'm wondering, has it accelerated this politicization, or is it just the same thing, the other side of the coin?
I mean, shouldn't he be like the golden child of the left? Right? Like he single-handedly made EVs cool, pushed the world towards sustainable energy, kind of trying to disrupt like oil companies and fossil fuel burning.
Well, I think one of the big things that moved him was getting shunned by the previous government. I think if Biden had been like, Elon, you're the fucking man, like, and
They
just
didn't.
really
They didn't invite him
propped
to
up.
the EV summit.
I think
right?
this is like, remember when
kind
Trump
of like
got
some
made
weird
fun
like
of?
villain moment
Remember when Trump got made fun of
by
at the
Obama at the correspondence dinner,
and then was like, "Fuck you, I'll be president."
yeah.
This is the same thing. This is like, I'm going to take over the world and support the other team because of all the companies, I'm the greenest. My literal company mission is renewable energy in many ways across many different aspects of what we do. And I'm not even going to get invited to this summit. Like,
Can we
fuck
go
you
back to
guys.
that moment? Like, why was Tesla and Elon not invited to the EV summit when I remember at the time they had sold more EVs than all the other invitees combined?
Because they didn't
that
use
year?
union labor,
Okay.
which is dumb. Because Tesla like is probably
It's
the one company
United Auto Workers.
that like helped the climate change cause more than anything. Like actually, like in the outcome of having that business grow was there was less,
It's
know,
just
fossil
politics,
fuel
man.
burning, and it makes it the whole thing like very disingenuous feeling because you're like, well, was the outcome really the point in the first place, or were there these like ulterior motives of why you said this was so important, we must change, we must do these things, and yeah, he's just doing them voluntarily, like to build a company and make money, and yeah, you don't care because he doesn't fit in your box. You can't control
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. But I mean, to your question is like, so what's happening? I think like, well, first of all, I don't think the actions of a few should ever be like conflated with like the general feeling of a group of people. I think the general feeling and the sentiment is that, yeah, they don't like Elon because he's associated with Trump, because he's firing federal workers, because they don't understand the nuance of the things he's talking about is, I think, a huge part of it, because they have a certain, there's a group think and it doesn't match with that team's thinking. And that's very hard to reconcile. And, you can parse that out into way more detail as well. But like to go and do these types of things just makes no sense. I don't, the reason I think it's just like the people are retarded and there's nothing else to say is because to a certain degree, it's like, what we're supposed to like, this is like asking if it's okay to go shoot the CEO of a healthcare company. Like, really? This is what we're going to talk about? Is it okay and justified? Like, what is this activist movement of like lighting cars on fire and vandalizing cars? Like, we're going to ask if it's justified to do that for some kind of cause? What's the cause?
So how about let's step back from the insane action.
Right.
But like I went to dinner with my friend's parents who are just run of the mill rich lefties, and the wife, before she knew that I drove a Tesla, she's like, "Thank God I didn't buy a Tesla because Elon is fucking terrible." And she was like, just expressing, I think, a sentiment that's pretty widely held amongst
Very.
that. And it's like, she's not an arsonist, but
Right.
she's not going to buy a Tesla.
We have one of our friends' wives wants to sell their Tesla because of Elon.
This is the way. Oh, really? This is the way most people show it. Is like, well, I just won't support the products and services of that person. I'll delete my X account if I ever had one. All that kind of stuff.
I mean, how much of this do you put on Elon? Not because of what he's doing or his views or his political perspectives, but just because, hey, you're owner of you're CEO of a publicly traded company, and you kind of took this risk to be publicly political. Obviously, it would put your brand at risk. I mean, there's so much history of like brands once they're political, it's not like you can drag them back to being neutral. I mean, like the OG like vandalism was like, Boston Tea Party. It was at the British East India Company or something like that. And the OG vandalism, because it like people were like, oh, you're not a tea company. You represent the British government and their policies. So we're going to destroy you. And so, I don't know, there's just like, you start from there and go all the way forward. There's like a track record. Should he have like evaluated the risk to his company? I mean, I don't think so, but I'm curious what
I think
you
he
guys think.
did. I think he definitely did. I don't think he cares. I think of all the people I've seen, like one of the things that makes him a great entrepreneur, this goes beyond even being an entrepreneur. It's like a great creator of our time is his ability to play the long game. Like he's playing on a multi-decade time horizon with everything he does. And so I think to him, all of these things are just like a blip in his overall legacy. And legacy is not even the right word because I don't think he's driven by a personal legacy. I think he's driven by like, I just must do enormous, big, fucking difficult things or else life is not worth living and not exciting enough. And if I don't wake up and don't feel excited about all these insanely huge things I'm doing, I'm going to get depressed. So I think everything Elon does is like an antidote to his madness and depression.
But what do you think he's doing? Like, what is, like, you're saying like he knew he was going to basically burn Tesla to the ground. Okay, but like, why?
Temporarily. You think it's burned to the ground?
I look, like it from like I'm looking at buying cars and like I don't really I'm like sort of like Elon agnostic. I think I don't like mega love him, but I also don't think he's like a Nazi, which right. So I'm sort of like in the middle on him, I think. And I was looking at Teslas and like the thought crossed my mind. I was like, do I want to get a Tesla? Like, do I really want to like park this thing outside and some asshole is going to come up to it and like key it? Like, do I want to deal with that? Do I like want to even like have this be like a political statement at all? Like, I don't want my car to be like a fucking political statement.
it's like the-
and, and that's
I was
me.
going to buy one. Is it really a political statement to
it's
own one?
It's the number one most sold car in the world. So like
it's getting
not,
wrecked. Like the sales are getting wrecked. There's
Okay,
a reason
but-
why the stock is down so
okay,
much.
but like I'm just saying, it's the most common car on the roads. You're gonna like key each car on the road. Like it's not gonna happen.
It is like undeniably like a politicized thing now, though, right? Like it is.
Sounds like a great buying opportunity. It sounds like buying the dip. What's the price?
I'm
gonna buy a couple.
Because I think like when I was
No,
doing,
I mean the car.
when I was doing my analysis, like objectively speaking, it's the best car for its price point, like
Yeah.
by far. So like just ignore that noise and buy the best car for its price.
I mean, can you ignore that noise? Like, what? Here's another thing that maybe you can ignore. Like, what if the vandalism thing gets so bad that insurance companies are just like, we're
not
going to jack up the
insuring these.
insurance on
Yeah.
Teslas by like
yeah,
50%.
but what if
or
it
something.
doesn't? 'Cause
But
it's
like,
most
why
likely to
even why
not.
even bother?
I mean,
why
you're
even
proposing a
bother?
hypothetical that is likely to not exist.
But if I'm thinking about this, how many tens of thousands of people at the fringes are also thinking of this? Like, what are
So
the
you're
downstream
not
effects
thinking of this as a temporary like rage thing that's happening and a few examples are being highlighted on social media. You think this is like a real phenomenon that like if you own one,
Yeah, people hate Elon. Like, there are people who like really, really hate Elon. And this like whole Luigi thing, like this is all tied into the same shit, man. Like, there's like a very
that's why I brought it
real
up.
phenomenon that has been like fomenting, and I think you'd be a fool to ignore it, right? It's definitely there. You can talk about it. Why does that exist? What do we do about it? But to like try to explain it away as though like, oh, whatever, you guys are silly or whatever word you want to use, like, I don't know. It's there's definitely a there, and it is worth like asking the question, like, why is this car like so much fucking better that like I even want to deal with that? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'll probably end up buying one anyway because, as Eric says, like the value is like quite good. There's good
I don't
value there.
understand this. So is it like the closer you are to Trump, the more the price you pay? Because like Mark Zuckerberg was like, I'm going to avoid being political, but really he didn't because he was like completely siding with the Biden administration and was like hiding so many things that people needed to know. So and coordinating with them and not publicizing that at all, which was extremely controversial. And then now he's like Team Trump. So what is it? Like we're all going to delete our Facebook and Instagram accounts now too? That hasn't happened. Why? Is it because like the closer you are, the louder you are, the more the price you pay?
It's because like network effects, businesses that have network effects are different than businesses that don't have network effects, and they're different moats, right? You don't buy your car because of the network effect, right? You just like the car. Now, Teslas have a little bit of a network effect built in, and that there's like a supercharging network and that sort of thing. And maybe there's like AI for like the self-driving that relies on that. Okay. But like for the most part, like buying a car is like this one-off thing, right? And you just drive your car versus like opting out of like a social network or any other business where you like derive a lot of value from the network effect is different. So I don't think you can like directly relate people's use of Facebook with people's, purchasing of a car, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is going away. I think this is just going to keep happening. Like my brain's been thinking about this for a while. Like, what does this mean if you're an investor? Like, what are companies that are on the brink of like maybe accidentally splitting their entire purchasing base in two, right? Like, this is the reality. Like Elon basically Elon did worse than cut his base in half, because like his base was massively skewed to the left to begin with. So like he's probably slashed like 75% of his purchase base, right? Because he was already skewed left. It's not even like he just chopped his customer base in half. Like, what other companies are doing this? What other CEOs are like on the verge of maybe doing this? Like, is this just like a
Yeah, I mean, I
a
think I
normal
can
thing?
see like that anyone who is like strongly political on the left is just going to want him to lose. Like, they don't like that he's the richest man in the world. They don't want to support his products and services and cars and everything anymore. And so one of the ways to do that is to just, tank his companies to the best of your ability and not support them. That is one of the best things about capitalism too, is like, if you don't like something or someone, just don't support their products and services. More
Vote with
power
your
to you.
dollars.
Yeah.
I agree.
I was totally legitimate. Not buying products is totally legitimate. Like,
Yeah.
vandalizing people's property isn't.
Yeah, but I want to talk about that more because I feel like what we mentioned at the outset was like there's a very small percent of the population that's like criminal that are like vandalizing the Teslas. I don't think your risk of owning a Tesla is really getting vandalized. I think it's like getting judged by people who are politically leaning, who are like, "Ooh, you drive a Tesla," and that's fine because like other cars get judged in other ways, like a Ford
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 truck.
F-150,
Subaru.
Lesbarus, etc.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And like I think where we live, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I do think we live in like a relatively moderate
For
city,
California.
which is
Yeah.
kind of nice. I think like for anywhere, I feel like we're relatively moderate. It's not too many
Just in San
wackos
Diego.
in either direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in San Diego. I mean, but like if I was like in San Francisco, like if I would live in San Francisco right now, I think there's like no chance I would buy a Tesla.
Nobody has a car in San Francisco, anyways.
I want to get back
Fair
to
enough.
like Michael Jordan. He got asked political questions and he was like, Republicans buy sneakers too. And end of story.
That's
Do you
such a
think
good
we're ever
one.
going back to that, or
Doesn't sound like
this
it.
is just the new normal?
mean,
like everything is politicized.
When celebrities become politicians, I mean, this is what happens, and kind of like blurring the lines. Like the people who have influence and are big end up becoming the people in power. They're definitely not going to shy away from like their opinions when that's how they got their popularity in the first place.
That's fine. But like Jordan was different, right? Like even Jordan, like maybe he had, or like LeBron. Like LeBron has like an opinion, right? It's fine. He has an opinion. But he's not like the CEO of a company, like directly inserting himself into like American governance and giving like hundreds of millions of dollars to like a presidential candidate, right? So there's definitely a difference in the Elon thing, right? Like
Yeah.
a huge difference.
So let's talk about the business side of it too. Like
Yeah.
now, I think Steven mentioned that he probably cut off like 70% of his customer base, which I think is probably accurate. Some people on the right will step in just as like a, what did you mention on your response so long? It's like a, just give it to the left.
Yeah, own the libs by buying electric cards. Yeah,
Own the libs. So some righties are going to want to own the libs by buying a Tesla right now. People who like hated EVs previously are just gonna be like, fuck it, I'll buy a Tesla. I'm thinking globally, like it's an ugly picture globally because like Tesla
Oh
sells.
my God, like in Europe, he's got to be wrecked.
Dude,
Like,
yeah,
I don't know
like-
what the Europe numbers look like.
No,
but I
but,
imagine
like,
he's getting destroyed.
globally,
there.
like the world hates this like tariff war, and Elon's kind of at the center of that. Like he's a face of it.
And he's getting out competed in China. I mean, like BYD makes a cheaper, arguably better
yeah.
car.
Yep. And Europe is kind of like buying those BYDs.
Yeah, I can't believe they're allowing China to ship in there. So I don't know. It's below the magic line, the 200-week moving average, where I say I would buy like big cap tech
Good
if it
assets.
ever got below that line, you know. And it's like sitting there, and I'm like, well.
So the issue with Tesla is that it's been a compounder over the years through just like memery, not
Like
not through
will.
like earnings growth,
Right.
which is the difference between like a Google, Amazon.
So we're
Facebook.
seeing memery compression, the
Yeah.
multiples being compressed from the memery.
That's scary. 'Cause the meme is definitely going down in value.
right, and like it's a car company right now at the end of the day, and like
So it's repricing.
if you value it as a car company, it's valued much
Let me give you a
less.
different take on it. What if it's like, it's not just a car company, it's like an autonomous driving system, like an Uber, but autonomy, plus a future robotics play, and you're now getting it cheap because of just what's in the news.
that
But it's
is
not. It's
what it
not
is.
cheap.
Cheaper. I agree.
Cheaper.
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap at all. It's the problem.
So when they unleash, some kind of network where you can get picked up in a self-driving
Yeah,
Tesla
they might be like white labeled.
for $3 or whatever.
You won't even care that it's a Tesla.
No, you
You'll
just
just care that it picks you up.
and you get there for like
No
very
one will
cheap.
scratch those up. They'll just be like, "What? You're going to scratch up the robo taxis?" Like, why? It's not owned by anybody. It's a network of cars. It's a network of AI-driven cars, robot cars.
But I got to imagine like the TAM on that is pretty freaking large. And
It's every car.
yeah, and the TAM on robotics. I mean, I don't really see them in this generation getting into like people's homes, but like in factories and
This generation,
warehouses. Like
how do you
peop-
define
like
that?
The
like our generation, I don't
opportunity-
think will be
The
buying.
robo car
Really, I'm going to buy a
opportunity.
robot. That's
No,
like
you
the
won't.
first buy.
No, you won't.
I think we can slash
Kidding
70
me?
to 80% of cars on the road, like in the medium term.
The robot is like 20 grand. Of course, I'm gonna have a robot
Yeah, you just leave the robot playing around your kid.
playing. It's gonna be working.
Yeah. Huh? Okay.
It's gonna be making lunch.
Wait till that thing gets pissed off.
What's the robot gonna do? Put your kid in the dishwasher?
Hey, you never know. Might start getting pissed off. Doesn't like the way you're talking to it.
Somebody's watched iRobot.
Yeah. I saw this one clip in China, and I don't know if it's real or not, but like, they were having a robot go up to a crowd and like shake hands and wave hi, and like someone kind of pushed it, and the robot pushed back, and then the police were like grabbing the robot, and I was like, I don't even know if this is real, but this is enough for me to be like,
That's
okay,
AI generated.
maybe not in my house.
That's gotta be AI. 'Cause
It
there's
has
just
to
so
be.
many videos where they're like kicking the robots and stuff.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh God," just writing the notes to the future robot overlords.
So you're staying away from Tesla,
The stock.
buying Tesla stock.
I mean, it looks
So
good. at
you
like 40
feel
bucks
that
at this
the
point.
you feel that the meme value is so fundamentally important to the stock value
Always
that
has been,
without it, it's worthless.
I don't know that it's worthless, but I feel like it's worth like 70% less than it's currently priced at.
What is Nick laughing at?
Sorry, I just saw like Outlaw Pinball in the chat says, I drive a Subaru.
No, I'm just kidding.
Outlaw Pinball,
Just
what's up?
kidding, Outlaw. We
What's
love the Subarus. Yeah, no. I mean, I was like interested in buying Tesla for like the robotics component because like I think it's like hard. Like, how do you invest in humanoid robotics, right? Like you think that's a cool narrative, and Tesla seemed like an easy way to do that. But like now it's got this like confounding variable of like, oh, by the way, they make their main product like everybody fucking hates them and doesn't want to buy it anymore. So
I think that
I don't know.
The dream was always that they're going to be the dominant player in these industries with massive TAMs.
Yeah.
And it could be like energy, it could be self-driving taxis or robotics. These are all massive businesses, and that's why Tesla's valuation went to the moon. Is because people are dreaming on that. And I think we're just like we oscillate between this idea of like buying the dream versus like the sobering reality.
Let's buy a dream at a discount.
You're
A little bit.
also betting that Elon fails by
It's like-
ignoring or shorting this.
It's like betting
And
against
I
Tom
don't
Brady in the
like
Super Bowl.
that. I don't like that. I'm like, okay, Elon's on sale.
Yeah.
Would I buy that?
Wow. The PE multiple is still 122.
I know.
Holy shit.
So
It's
when I
insane.
say like $40, it's not like that.
And for
Ridiculous,
comparison's
you
sake,
know?
isn't Nvidia like, what was it like?
On a Ford multiple, 30 times.
30 times. Yeah. It's actually pretty fucking cheap right now.
Nvidia looks good to me. But
I mean, what's
Um,
Tesla right now? Like $260.
230-ish.
230. Divide that by
250.
4. Poof.
Oof.
There you go.
hold on, that's exactly what you called, right? Like,
Yeah, Yeah, I don't know. This shit is real, man. Like, I was looking at review videos last night. I'm just like looking through car review videos, right? And some guy posted like a review of the new Model Y, which looks pretty cool. And I open up the comments. It's like 1,000 comments. Literally 80% of the comments are like, "I can't believe that you're reviewing this car." And then like there were like 100 like swastika. I was like, oh my god, like the internet is
Okay.
fucking mad.
So I was gonna mention
Power of the media, the power of the fake news.
I was
It
gonna
still
mention
has a power.
how like I've followed stocks for my entire adult life, and I've seen a lot of successful companies trade at high multiples like this in the face of guys saying like, no, this is like overpriced, and the stock just keeps going higher. I've never seen like vitriol to the level you're describing from like people in the comments.
It's really
section.
bad. And like the technicals of the stock are actually starting to match the vitriol. Like before, people were like, this thing is overvalued. But if you look at the chart, it was like, this chart is just like up only technology, right? It just looked bullish as fuck. And there were a lot of people who just long Tesla who were like momentum traders, right? Trend followers. And they're just like, this thing is going higher, so I'm just going to buy it until it stops going higher. But now like the technicals don't look good. Like the price action looks very, very, very bad. And the fundamentals look bad because sales are in the fucking toilet. And the public perception is definitely ugly, as evidenced by the bullets and the fires and the vandalism and the internet comments. Like, I don't know. Like if I was a big shareholder, I would feel very, very sketch right now. I
think a good way to frame it though is for like the Elon believers and the Tesla believers, which I am, consider myself one. It's like you could say to what Steven is proposing here, it's like Elon has gone on sale, Tesla has gone on sale, it'll get cheaper. I think it probably does get cheaper.
I mean, do you guys remember CrowdStrike in July? They had that outage that affected everyone.
You nailed that one.
Yeah, everyone got pissed off. I mean, the stock went from like 400 to like 250 in the matter of weeks. And it took about 6 months before it hit all-time highs. And that was also a stock that's trading at like an indefinite PE because the earnings are like slightly negative. So probably well over 100 if the earnings were slightly positive. And it came back from a crisis in which pissed off a bunch of people. Granted, it wasn't politically oriented or fueled.
Yeah, that's like it's kind of a different.
And they didn't actually lose any customers, I guess, is another thing.
It's a totally different animal, right? It's like you're talking about the difference between people being mad that the business lost money versus like, okay, I think a good analog to this is like Canadians with the tariffs and shit, right? There's like one group of people who are like, well, logically, these people will just like bend over and fold because they're economic thing, blah, 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 blah. But they're just like underwriting how fucking mad they are, right? And if people are fucking pissed, they sometimes turn like illogical in sort of like a X's and O's numbers sense, right? So there's a difference between people not liking your company because it like caused like this like financial catastrophe versus like people not liking your company because they fucking hate you, right? And then I think with people like actually dislike you or don't like something, they'll sometimes just like crawl over glass to just not support you, even if it's maybe like not logical.
I mean, Bud Light's back, right?
Well, I was trying to think of a different one. I was thinking of Bud Light. That's a tough one because they have like substitution products. You know,
like they didn't really hurt.
I think like Modelo is a AB InBev beer, and everyone's just like, oh, switch to Modelo's, and you're like still buying Bud Light. Basically.
And they also do like their brand is like a lot of their marketing, so you just switch the marketing and it's back. It's not like Tesla doesn't even do any marketing, so you're not going to switch out Elon.
Rocket brought up something actually that I wanted to talk about, because like Elon is not a saint. Like he definitely does some shady shit, and like there's a thing in Canada right now where Tesla is being investigated because there's some dealerships that basically claim to have sold like 4,000 Teslas or some crazy number in like 24 hours, and they sucked up like all these like rebates.
Okay.
So
do you know if the dealerships in Canada are independent or they're like Tesla owned and
I
operated?
think it's all vertically integrated.
I know in the US, maybe it's
I think it's global like that.
okay.
No, I saw some Canadian
he says
investigative journalists. They're going in. They're like, "Oh, excuse me, sir. Could I ask you a couple of questions?" And, very politely.
Rocket also said these corporate or 3 corporate-owned dealerships who sold 8,600 cars in 3 days, capturing $43 million in rebates. What? Oh wait, $8,600. 8,600 cars.
8,600 cars in 3 days.
One car a minute, 24 hours a day for 3 days straight.
What?
Smells like fraud.
Yeah, that smells pretty fraudulent.
I mean, listen, he's gained from both presidents, right? Like, he gained from these rebates to kickstart the whole business, and then now he's gaining because he has market share, and Trump got rid of the rebates. He doesn't really need them because he's already built like a car and the production at scale, and he doesn't. It hurts his competitors who start.
Okay, how about like just this simple idea that I had? It's like,
I just saw Marty said to Steven, you seem like a Prius dude.
Oh, yeah. Marty's been banned.
Steven
from
was
Discord.
asking for electric car recommendations in the lounge.
New Prius
that
actually
were
looks
not
pretty cool.
a Tesla.
Stop. There's no
I
way.
think Marty's right.
New Prius
You
looks
do
pretty
seem
cool.
like a Prius dude.
Nobody thinks I'm a Prius dude. That doesn't
I could
make
see
sense.
it.
Is
And then
Rivian
Steven
publicly
says-
traded?
yeah.
No, but honestly, who
Dude,
said
Rivians are expensive,
Matt
man. I was
Metzler
shocked.
said F-150 Lightning. Dude, I drove that car once. That thing
I don't want
is
a
a
truck.
monster.
I don't want a truck.
It's one of the coolest cars I've ever driven.
don't want a truck.
I know. You're not a truck guy.
I'm not a truck guy.
How about an e-tron Audi?
I thought about that. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It just feels weird. It just
I
feels
love
like it
Audis.
occupies like a weird nether region of car. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a midsize.
I was really heavily considering like a Polestar.
I like Polestars.
Polestar
I
3
just
is
don't like that
kinda
they're
sexy.
Android instead of Apple CarPlay.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, and
what's
like
going on?
the self
big
like,
turn
the
off for me.
self driving just sucks. Like there's just you're punting on the
No, that's
self
what I'm
driving.
saying. Is like you can't go with anything other than a Tesla. Like
Dude,
you
like
can't.
the freaking base Model Y is like $200 a month. It's like free.
yeah.
And it
and like
beats
and like
every other car.
and like the bare minimum Polestar for a lease is like $800 a month. Like bare minimum. So
That's what
it's
I'm
just like,
saying, dude.
ah!
That's what you're gonna find is when you start
getting one.
analyzing it, it's
You're
the best
getting
car
what?
objectively.
Wait,
You're getting a
it's-
Polestar?
No, I'm getting a Tesla.
You are.
I think
What-
this shit is crazy.
You're getting a.
I'm buying the stock
you
and I'm
getting an
buying the
X?
car.
You getting the wings?
Yeah, I do like the X. I'm not
It's
buying
like
a car
twice
right
as
now.
much
I'm
money.
just
It's
saying
so
that.
funny.
I
don't
actually think
need a
the
car
X
right now.
reminds me of a minivan. Everyone else thinks it's like the SUV one. I'm like, ooh, that's the minivan.
I never understood why the X costs so much more money.
yeah.
It's just
It's like basically
far
just like the Y.
higher quality.
No,
the
it's
door-
actually the one that has all
the
the
doors
problems.
go like this,
Oh,
so
really?
they.
Yeah, it's got like leaks in the doors and shit. It's like the one that has all the manufacturing issues.
Oh,
It's
great,
faster,
What a
I
deal.
guess. I don't know.
I don't think so. They all have the same like drivetrain.
dude. Like that juiced up Y does like
So why
0
is
to
it
60 in like
triple the
3.5.
cost?
Like that's like you pass out. That's insane.
no, they,
Three-
Why is it
3.5?
double the cost? Triple the cost.
I don't know.
Because of the doors.
The doors open
the
like
doors
this.
like
Your
this.
doors go like this.
I mean, it's
Doors like
bigger.
this.
It's $200 a month now?
The base Model Y is like, if you put like 3K
$299,
down, lease is like
$300?
$199. Yeah, it's crazy.
so fucking cheap.
No way.
Yeah, it's
That's what I was
nuts.
telling you when I bought mine. I told you how low the lease
It's
was.
literally dinner. That's a dinner
I
date.
know.
It's a DoorDash order.
Practically, I know they're giving them away.
All right, let's get
giving
the,
those Nazi cars
Hold on, can
away.
I suggest one thing before we like end the Tesla stock convo?
Okay.
One thing I'm thinking of is like, are we mid curving this so much by saying like, oh, everyone hates Elon and whatever? And it's like he's like literally right next to the president, and
Yeah.
like it's got the #1 selling car on earth, and we're just like overthinking this.
I'm sorry, but
I don't
That
think
is what
Trump
I'm
can
trying to
single-handedly
communicate.
like make the Tesla number go up.
No,
because
he
buys one.
can't.
There's no way.
because the power of the people, and that's the greatest thing about democracy, whether the people are retarded or not, like the people have power. That is the beautiful thing. So I do think that there is a risk of Elon not making it long term, but I think he's playing a long term game. I think it'll be fine. It'll be a blip in the grand scheme, and like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is the time to short Elon.
He's gonna have to keep buying himself Republican presidents, or he's.
Sounds cheap.
It's cheap, yeah. It doesn't seem like.
I mean, that is the
sad.
sad thing. Like,
Like,
when you're
he's
worth like
already
a
in
half
the
trillion
JD.
dollars, like $100 million to buy the
I mean,
president.
for me, in my opinion, I felt from the moment that Trump got reelected that we have 12 years of this new empire.
I don't know.
It
President
depends
AOC.
how.
No,
It depends on the
JD's gonna
next
win.
like. JD's not going to win if
JD's
Trump
gonna
sends
win.
us into a Great Depression. and doesn't
Exactly.
pull
I
us
was like,
out
if
of
this
it.
thing turns
No,
into
you're
recession,
you're going to have
then
dictator AOC, and then the world's over.
Yeah, no, that won't happen.
All right, well, let me get the chat involved. Left Side Capital says, I have a Subaru as well, but also GMC Sierra 2500 HD. So does that balance out?
I'll allow it.
Yeah, those are huge balls.
Josh Crawford says, if you have a Subaru, depends on if you have snow in the winter. Snow in the winter cancels it out.
Agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got that straight.
That's a utility car.
Yeah.
Why'd you guys hate on the Subaru?
Subaru is like the Tesla Model Y of the mountains.
Yeah.
And for the record, I believe Outlaw Pinlaw in the snow as well.
I just heard they
Cancel
burn
that.
a lot of oil. Like
Subarus?
Yeah. Like
I read a whole article once on like how they came to be like lesbian cars, and it was like fascinating actually. There's like a whole multi-page.
Did they talk
thing.
about the cancel out qualifications?
No,
Okay.
none of that. It was just like
have a
it just took you
GMC.
through the marketing and everything. Yeah,
I want a Ford Lightning. Coolest car I've ever driven.
That's
Is-
the F
is that the
150.
F1?
Has a
150,
frunk.
Mm.
They all have fronts.
Yeah.
Frunk does
This one's
not
better.
sound like
I think it
something
has
you
like
want.
a fridge for your beers
That's
and your woman.
And your gun.
and your horse.
And your horse.
horse.
Benjamin Meadows says, I rented a Polestar. Really nice. Preferred it to the Tesla. Ben Studley says, dude, I just bought the Tesla X. My entire family hates Elon. However, everyone loves the car. It's a really well-made car in my experience so far.
Yeah, I heard the X is like more higher end parts than the Y. No, but I don't know. I don't know if it's worth double the cost.
Worth the
Seems
vandalism?
like a lot.
Yeah.
The problem is now that they have the new Model Y, you can't even get that bumper sticker where it's like, I bought this before Elon. And people know now. They're like,
I've never
"Mm."
seen one of those bumper stickers.
Well,
You
I saw
haven't? I've seen a few
picture-
of them actually.
The new Y, I saw a picture of the front in like some app. I don't even know anymore where I see things, but like it looked sick.
It looks good. It's a good looking car. I don't like the interiors though. Like I like the
Too minimalistic.
uber minimalist thing like freaks me out. That's what I liked about the Polestar when I looked at it. I was like, oh, it looks kind of like a car.
I just want knobs.
Yeah, like a
You're a
knob.
gadget guy?
A
Yeah,
knob
well, I
is
just don't want to
amazing.
look at the screen while I'm doing it. I just want to feel for the knob.
Oh, I love analog. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Polestar
want
has it has like
analog
it has like a play button and like a
knobs.
there's like a button to push to play and like a volume
love-
knob, which
It's
is
funny
like
you
great.
guys say that because when we were driving the Model Y versus the Porsche Macan is what we were like comparing against. The Porsche had like all these analog things, but
Yeah.
it felt superfluous. It was like it felt like it was you're inside of a wooden ship with like nautical like maritime crap all over the place. Like, why would you need any of this shit?
You just turn the navigation and the boat goes.
The Model Y is too barren. It's like going over to your buddy's apartment. He gets like his new apartment. And you walk in and there's just like a TV and a lawn chair,
Yeah,
and the rest of it's
beds
just
on the
like
floor.
empty. Yeah, it's just like we need some plants or something in here. It's too barren.
All right, let's switch gears here. So the internet is buzzing. Wow, you write good copy, Stephen. The internet is buzzing after two conservative men were left at the altar by liberal women on the hit reality show.
Oh, we're doing Love is Blind. Wow, Amber's gonna be so happy.
Yeah. So the questions posed by my teleprompter says, is it still possible to be with someone on the other side of the political aisle these days? What strategies do you have for being with someone who doesn't share your worldview? Wow. So I know the show Love is Blind. My wife watches it all the time in every language. They have like a Love is Blind.
Everybody's wife watches that, dude.
Wife.
Everybody's.
Iran.
It's unbelievable.
Haven't gotten
Women
used to
love
that
this
yet.
shit.
Yeah.
He has a
Fucking love
wife.
Wife.
It's like female.
There's like
crack.
Brazil. I don't know. There's like
Yeah.
all in different German.
Mexico,
Yeah.
Uzbekistan.
There's always a Love
Everyone
is
has
Blind
one.
series somewhere at some time. So very familiar with it. So they interview each other and then they get to the altar after they actually hang out in person.
They're like
right?
dating like these pods or something, right? And they're just
But
just
they hang
talk
out
like
after.
Yeah,
and
they
then
go
they
like
hang
this.
out after.
They go like this. They like lay down on the sofa, and then they have their journal open and they're taking notes. And they go like, "How do you feel about cotton versus linen?" I've always been a linen gal. Oh my god, me too. I knew it. Love at first sight. I mean, voice.
Got bits about this.
this is
He's
so
been
good.
working on bits. Like a stand-up
And
routine.
then they
we don't know
stalk each
about.
other in advance of the show, and they look each other up on Instagram, and they go like, "I don't know anything about what you look like. She's a fucking 9. All right, that's the one for me." And they're like, "Ah, "I don't
Oh,
care
you're saying
about
they
looks
know
at
what people
all."
look like?
Some of them cheat.
Oh my
Steven.
God.
Some of
What?
them cheat.
That ruins it for me.
Such a fraud.
You got to watch out.
It
Some of them cheat. No, that's the one I told you guys about. That I turned it like Erica
Yeah.
was watching, and the guy had like apparently been
Oh,
accused of cheating.
You really dug in.
yeah,
You leaned in.
yeah. I was commentating along. You whore.
Yeah, that's your next career. Is
I mean, I was confused by the Libby girl and the conservative dude, because like they're in the pods talking, like I saw some of these episodes, and like they're in the pods and she's like, I love Black Lives Matter, and he's like, I go to church a lot. Like, so what? It's not like it didn't come up.
Oh, that was his like verbatim response to that prompt.
Not really, but he was sort of just like, he wasn't even like, oh, I hate Black Lives. I feel like he was just like, she was like, do you have an opinion on this? And he's just like, not really. I love Jesus. I go to church,
I saw the clip. He was
didn't
like,
see
I don't. She left him at the altar because he didn't have a strong opinion that was aligned with her groupthink.
But so she still was like, yes, I'll marry you, and then go through the whole thing.
I think you have to go through I think it's a shtick of the show. Like you run like a whole wedding after, and then like
They want
you
you
get
to
there,
decide at
and
the
then
altar.
you decide like at the altar.
But that's like a good little follower pump strategy, right? Like, okay, I'm going to say yes, and then I'm going to ditch him at the altar.
Yeah,
And the followers are going to get pumped.
As somebody who's been on these shows, you have an incentive to like be on more shows.
Oh, yeah, I
So
forgot
you
we
don't
have
wanna-
an expert here.
You don't want to end it.
You don't
Like,
want to end it.
You don't want to
Yeah.
like just leave early.
Do you move on to the challenge afterwards?
Yeah,
Do I have that right? Like,
real
it's like,
world road rules.
it's like where they take like certain characters from different reality shows and
The main thing is to make
them-
it to the reunion.
Ooh, okay.
That's
yeah.
that's the key. You're doing the face.
I was
You
thinking
have
about
something to
asking.
say.
I've had a lot to drink, so my face is starting to wander.
You got a lazy face.
Trying to read the face.
I'm losing control of my
Trying
face.
to read the face. Just don't make eye contact. Can't read it right
I
now.
love that.
No, my face sometimes does things. Like I'm like my mind wanders,
Yeah,
and then
like
it
a
disconnects
face
from my
brain
face.
disconnect. No, I
Yeah,
get it. I
and
get
then
it.
my face will just
I've
be
done
like,
it before. Erica's been like, I can't tell what you're thinking.
people are
I'm
like, "What are you
I
doing
don't
with
know
your
what I'm
mouth?"
thinking either. Oh my god. Oh, that's so funny.
Ugh.
So, what do you guys think about the disconnect with a couple when it comes to ideology?
Do you guys like, how ideologically aligned are you with your significant others?
86%.
Okay, that's pretty high. It's pretty high.
I've done it both ways.
Yeah.
I've been aligned and less aligned in the past.
And both, like, I mean, forget the outcome, but like, was it smooth regardless?
I noticed as we like progressed deeper that it became a bigger deal actually. Like with the families involved and stuff, it actually became a bit of a friction point. I will say.
Tell us more. How have you navigated that? When is it a problem? When is it not a problem? Is it possible to reconcile differences and have a long-term relationship regardless of those differences?
I think where I was originally trying to sort of plant my flag was that you can definitely have like a loving relationship without being aligned on that thing, as so long as like you guys both don't care about that.
Like, so much where you're willing to, like,
Well,
it's a
like
deal breaker.
just even like my personal identity on this show is like somebody who doesn't like care so much about politics, right? Like,
Right.
so I think you guys would look at that and be like, okay, so Eric could be with somebody who
yeah.
is misaligned.
Yeah,
with-
so Erica for me is like Eric, well, the tongue twister, where 50% of the 86% is like, I don't care.
Yeah, I'd say yes.
She's just like, I'll lean wherever you lean. And I'm like, well, I lean like radically moderate. Everything needs to be like, there's nuance.
yeah, it's just everything.
And I think if I didn't exist in her life, she would be a hardcore lefty.
It's funny, like, I don't think I could be with someone who's like, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. Like, be like, this is my camp. That would kind of throw me off a little bit, just because they kind of like pre-subscribe to all beliefs, like under the checkbox.
well, like one of your like main tenets is that you're like non-dogmatic.
Yeah, totally. Like, just, well, what are we talking about? Okay, let's.
Yeah, which element of the party?
Yeah, and then we'll talk through it. But I don't know. This example was like kind of wild to me. It's like, what poor judgment, or like maybe not just poor judgment, but like an extreme amount of like emotional reactivity do you have to like put yourself in that position where you're triggered so much to like at least leave the person you love?
Well,
at the
I
altar?
support the girl
Why?
because I think that her ask is actually really deep. She's saying like, I need my partner to have an opinion on this that is aligned with mine. And I think that's a completely fair ask if that's of value to you. That's like saying like, I'm Catholic or Jewish and I need my partner to either convert to Judaism or practice it with me or accept it
I've seen
or
that
to
one a lot.
support it or
Yeah.
to whatever. And I think that's very similar. I think political ideology is very similar to religion. And I think if two people come from two very different religions but are not willing to mesh, you're not going to have a long-term relationship that works most of the time. I've seen it work. I have people in my family that have done it, but like it's difficult, in general. And so if you have two people with strong opinions, that's too much polarity. If you have an Eric or an Erica, in my case, which is like, well, I would lean this way because my school is this way, my friend group is this way, this is what I know. And I don't really care enough like you do to like go into the weeds on this stuff, but like you've exposed me to a new way of thinking and I'm open to it and it's enlightening and interesting, then that can work. Where
Yeah.
it's like, she's like, I'm open to it. It's interesting. You've showed me a new way to think about things. That's like a person saying like, well, I wasn't really religious. And now because of you, I'm becoming more spiritual and I'm open to being more spiritual. That's
yeah.
what that looks like. But if a person was like, no, I'm a hardcore atheist. I will never believe in God. I think we're worms and there's nothing. Materialist, fundamentalist to the core. And the other person is like, that's wrong. Consciousness drives it. Not even consciousness. Let's just say they're even more radical. Let's say they're like, Jesus was the Son of God. Like, I am a pure Christian to the core. This doesn't work for me. That would be too much polarity.
Yeah, I think that case, and also the case where there's a certain tier of people, I think we've all met them, where like they believe like politics equals morality. Like, so therefore, if you disagree with me, you are immoral and wrong, and not only just wrong, but like you're a bad person, and you should go to
Right.
hell. So
Right.
though, if you have that definitely not going to mix, right?
Not at all. And I think her ask, I would have walked away if I was her. I'd be like, we don't align on the important matters. Like, you don't have an opinion on BLM. BLM to me is a religion.
Why was she there in the first place?
Well, because she's also playing a show.
Well, hold on.
Followers.
Like, I think it's totally fine for somebody to have their own priorities outlined and communicated very clearly. And what Armand's saying, I think, is completely perfect. Like, somebody can have their own priorities and their own preferences. Communicate those clearly. Like, I think the issue is that she waited until the altar to drop that
Yeah.
on this guy. I didn't see the show, but I'm
Well, reality TV is not reality, right? So
yeah. But I think we're talking about the idea here.
yeah,
Like,
the idea.
the idea here is like you can be misaligned on things that are low priority to you.
Right.
If you have misalignment on your most important thing, it's not going to work.
Yeah, kids, religion, how to treat people.
Well, I think whether or not you want kids like is a huge factor too. Like I think
Huge.
you can be like wildly different, and if you don't have kids, it doesn't matter. But like I feel like if one of you is like, I almost feel like it's a lot easier to have like an atheist and like a Christian marry than to have like a hardcore like stereotypical lefty and a hardcore stereotypical righty. I feel like that's like more difficult to reconcile. Like if you have kids, because I feel like the religion thing is almost just like you'd be like, all right, we're going to teach you this, we're going to teach you this, and choose your own way. But there's like something about the politics where it's just like, no, like we have to pick a lane. You know, we have to like pick a.
You gonna
fucking lane.
vaccinate? Uh-oh. That's when it pops up.
That was probably a big
There's
one.
so many
That was
things.
probably like 30% of divorces during COVID.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of divorce happened during COVID. A lot. And I bet a lot of it was political.
So can we show this chart on the screen? I think we've looked at this, and it shows a few different countries: South Korea, U.S., Germany, U.K., and basically the more upwards above the line you go, the more liberal you get, and the more downward below the line you get, the more conservative you get. Women in pink, men in blue, and you just see like basically just this huge divergence, right? Specifically in the U.S., it looks like. what, like mid 2000s, late
What
2000s?
the hell is going on in South Korea?
No,
Not
I was
having
gonna.
any babies.
I was gonna say, what the hell's going on in the UK? The men are going lib. It's the only one.
They are.
Yeah, they're going
Yeah.
just not as much. But yeah, in the US, it's saying like,
They are. I mean, that kind of checks out, honestly. I'm actually surprised at Germany more so than anything. I would have reversed Germany and UK.
so the US, I mean, there's now a 40-point difference in however the scale is. Like women have drastically moved up towards liberal, men have kind of like going towards moderate. I guess we're looking at 18 to 29-year-olds. So maybe they're naturally liberal by default. And so men are kind of going more towards the moderate
It's
line.
like an insane gap. I mean, it's a 40-point gap
Yeah. So,
in the U.S.
okay, if you take that data and apply it to this situation here, we're basically saying if these people are hardcore, that's not going to work. What the hell does the dating look like in the future, right? I mean, you basically
Well, I
see
think
they're
it-
spreading apart.
It used to always be like this, though. I feel like women have always been more liberal than men, but there was like a cycle where like women would pair with men, and then like the women would become more conservative. That was like how everything used to work, right?
Yes, single women.
Single women who rely on the state
Yeah.
as their
Yeah.
as their
Well,
breadwinner.
does this business idea exist yet? Are there like, is there a conservative dating app and like a liberal dating app yet? Because like I'm looking at this
FarmersOnly.com.
date. What is it called? Wait,
FarmersOnly.com.
because that seems like ripe for this, right? It's like, you know,
Well, I think high level, you would also probably notice that this idea is kind of proven because like people in South Korea and the United States are still getting together despite this widening gap.
I don't know, baby.
People in South Korea are definitely not getting together, right? Like, isn't South Korea have like a massive like reproductive
Huge.
crisis? Like
Huge
really bad,
problem.
like super bad.
Yeah,
I think it's like actual crisis levels there.
they're gonna be gone in like 200 years.
Yeah, like it's wild. I think they're
UK
just like, sort of-
women are off the charts.
Yeah, UK women are wild.
So are U.S. women. I mean,
Yeah,
all women are just going crazy.
no, I mean the UK women. Holy shit, that's like a. But the gap isn't actually that big because the men are pretty liberal, actually.
So people who are in the dating pool now, are they like swiping right or left based upon reproductive rights? And
Oh, for sure. Like, even like 5 years ago, you'd go on. There'd be people like, if you like X, Y, Z, swipe. Don't.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
No.
oh, really?
Yeah, there were women like if they like you. I would see so many things like if you voted for Trump, no.
It was a.
And I was like, that's the first thing in your dating profile. Like,
I
that's what
remember.
you're leading
I remember
with?
being surprised by it because at that time it was like a minority of people doing that. I'm guessing it's much more prominent now.
All
It
right.
was a lot. It was crazy. It was so many. Yeah, there was a lot of like leading with politics. It was entirely on the female side though. Like you almost never saw like a male profile where it's just like if you voted for Kamala, you can get out. And you never see that. You never see that because the men were like, yeah, but how hot is she?
Yeah,
know,
but the
like,
men,
They were always like always wanting to like fudge.
the men kind of make it obvious by their.
Be like, you know, she killed a guy once, right? Like, yeah, like self defense.
I don't know. I think the men make it quite obvious with their profiles without saying it explicitly. It's just like if you're like
Make what obvious?
where you land. It's like if you're like holding a fish, holding a fish, holding a fish, holding a fish.
No,
It's
no,
like-
no. No, they do, but you don't see men like being like, if you are X, Y, Z, don't even click on my thing, right? Because like, men just like they don't do that. You very rarely see men being like, no liberal women. They would always just be like, well, how, but how hot is she? Like there's like a sliding, there's like a scale where like if you were like an 11, people would be willing to tolerate a little bit, right? But
Yeah.
like the women don't do that as much.
Oh, apparently there was an app called The Right Stuff,
The right stuff.
a dating app for American Republicans and conservatives. Oh, funded by Peter Thiel.
Oh God.
I don't know if it's around anymore, but initial release was in 2022.
Do you think this is something that just gets solved by the market? Because if you are like statistically speaking right now, if you're like a hot conservative woman, you're like you have people falling all over you, right? You're like 5-to-1 ratio, right? So does the marketplace do women just like start adopting those beliefs to an extent?
or vice versa.
Yeah.
You're a dude and you're like,
Yeah.
I want to get laid. I'll just go.
But dude,
left.
yeah, I mean, dudes have always done that, right?
Yeah.
There was like a period where like dudes were getting like real feminists.
I'd
and
like to
everything,
play in
and-
women's sports.
Yeah.
Does
So
anyone?
men have always done that. So maybe it's like a self-rectifying problem. Not in Korea, apparently. In Korea, the problem is like I think they don't even want to like have sex anymore. So like once you give that up, it's just like there's no corrective
What was,
mechanism.
I did see something in Korea. I think it was like they just like got over the idea of like being selfless. Like they want to just be selfish and say like I want to live my life for me, not any other.
Yeah, I think they like
being.
just joke about the race dying off there. It's just like people are like, haha, we're gonna be gone.
Benjamin was asking question, what if one changes opinion, religion, politics after marriage? I feel like that's probably
That's a great question.
decent sign of a good partnership, right? Like I don't think you should go in trying to change the other person's values, but it could happen over time, right? Like if you both approach it kind of curious, or like a, what if we're both wrong situation, let's talk about it like that, more likely to be able to discuss it. And maybe one side over time like changes their opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a good sign.
I think this is pretty temporary. I don't think it's a market
the
thing.
divide?
Yeah. I don't think it's so much like maybe it's like partially the market. I don't think the market will be the catalyst. I think the catalyst will be time in a sense. And the times currently are requiring traditional strong men during chaotic times. So I think it's very much like a fourth turning thing that we're seeing. It pretty much starts in like the 2010s, 2015s, last 5 to 10 years, and it just is beginning to accelerate. There are cultural differences between the countries, but in general, if women are becoming more liberal and men are becoming more conservative, there's clearly something going on in the underlying just sort of like requirements of what society needs right now. And maybe men are sort of leaning toward traditional values because things are so difficult. And there's a requirement for just like strengthening again,
So what this chart is over a 10, 20, 30
30
years.
year.
30 years. I feel like I can just look at myself. I'm like a part of this. I'm like a stat here where I'm kind of like
Right.
moving more conservative over that period of time.
I probably moved very similarly to the U.S. chart.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, don't you think this entire chart is just explained by people getting married later? Because most of the difference in
Yeah.
the chart is, I feel like women going left.
Yes.
And like I think women are just naturally that way. And if women get married,
Until
they
they get
tend
married.
to moderate. So if they stop getting married at a young age, obviously if you look at the stats,
Right. This
then
chart only talks about
that moderating
29-year-olds.
effect doesn't happen.
It stops
Yeah.
at 29.
And then like this current like generation that falls directly into the 18 to 29 is like not drinking, not having sex, not doing anything.
Yeah.
So,
And the young men are going like way right, which is interesting.
Right.
So it's like it is this like weird kind of
if you're not
trad
going to
warp
go to
kinda thing.
bars and hook up and do the things that people used to do, like it's going to cause a greater and greater divide.
Do you think men tend to moderate after marriage in the same way that women would, like
For
move
sure.
towards the middle?
I don't know that they moderate politically a lot, but they moderate in a lot of ways. Like women moderate the shit out of men.
Yeah.
Like men, you ever just run into like a random like 22-year-old? You're just like, wow, you're like a savage.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
young single men who are just like fucking amped up, or like they're basically like one jump away from joining a caliphate somewhere. Right? Like it's just like they go off the rails very easily. And then like women have this like moderating impact. They do, and it's a good thing. So it's probably a bad thing to not have that, to like get rid of that.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at like parts of the globe where terrorism goes wild is usually when they like suppress the women's rights and the women role in the society and in culture. They just like cover them up. You have no rights. You have no say. You can't work. You can't drive. You can't do anything. And then that's where.
If you have a society where like men aren't getting laid, it's just like a direct correlation with violence. It's like crazy. It's just like absolutely nuts.
Hold on. I was thinking about Ben's question from earlier.
Yeah.
The question was like, what if your partner sort of moves, like fluidly moves around on this like left to right scale? I think I'd be totally fine with it so long. Like I actually would probably love it as long as like that fluidity is the value system that we're espousing. It's like, it's not that like you are now lefty or you are now righty. It's just like, are you just somebody who is like able to sort of venture around? I think I like that.
The thing I've always had trouble with in regards to all this type of conversation is that when you begin to identify with your beliefs, I think it just makes you stupider. And so like I would never, personally speaking, imagine I was like an ultra left-wing guy and I was with an ultra left-wing girl. I, personally speaking, would have absolutely no problem with that. So long as to them it was an intellectual discourse about their values and mine. And we could joust with each other about our differences and engage and have like good conversation about why you're right or why you're wrong or where we might have differences. Like I genuinely would have no problem with that because I don't think that political ideology is like everything. I think did you say earlier like the religious one would be more extreme? It'd be more difficult. No, you
So
said
the religious one would be easier.
Oh, easier. Well, to me, I don't think the political one is that hard in a world where you don't identify with those beliefs.
Okay,
and those identification sort of like that latching on makes people very stupid. And so like, I mean, the only reason I'm here is because, again, and what we have in common is like, you have a set of values. We all do, politically speaking. But like we aren't offended by one another's beliefs. If you could sit with another woman, your partner, and have differences of opinion on your beliefs, ideologically speaking, politically speaking, but also be like, well, this is an exercise in finding truth. Why is that a problem? That would never be a problem. The reason it's a problem and the reason people aren't like having sex and engaging with people of opposing ideology and being like, if you don't agree with me, swipe left, is because that's stupid. That's a very stupid way of operating as a person to just like identify with that set of beliefs. The main underlying problem in society is in my opinion, that.
Well, how do you
over-identification.
How do you reconcile that statement with the idea that like we lauded this girl for being like, no, you know your priorities and you communicated those at the altar and that's okay. Like,
because I that's a great question, because I think that his inability to communicate his beliefs was her problem. She at least wants someone to know where they stood. I watched a 2-minute clip on this, so I can't speak to this, but it's like a 2-minute clip where he's just like, I'm just this guy and I don't really know. What I know is this and that. And she's like, well, I went and I watched his church sermon recording and they clearly have an opinion. And that opinion is probably his opinion. He's not being very forthright about his opinion with me. So I think she left him. Again, I know it's just a example we're using, but I think she left him because of his lack of honesty about where he stood. What is your opinion? Can we joust about this? Can we discuss this? Or not, because he was being secretive in a sense and like hiding where he really
Deceitful.
stood. Yeah. And I think she just wanted to know, like, where do you stand? Like, what is really, like, we can disagree, but like, tell me where you stand. I don't know if
She's probably
she would say
hiding
we can
because
disagree.
like she knew she would like
Right.
reject his true beliefs, right? Which is
It's a
probably
risk.
true.
It's a risk.
It's probably true. Like
Probably
I don't think she did anything wrong. I don't like agree with her beliefs, and I think he's the dumber one for like everybody on the internet is like, what are you doing, bro? Right? Like it's just like, and
Why do they think he's the number one?
okay, like I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but like if I went on a date tomorrow and like one of the main things a girl brought up to me was like my opinion on Black Lives Matter, I'm just like, thank you for the good time. I'll pay for your drink. I'm never talking to you again. It's just
Right.
like there is nothing in my belief set where like that is the number one priority thing you bring up to me. Like, okay, like kids or something, fine. Like, do you believe in God? Cool. But if it's just like, okay, like
the
I
new
need to know
question
your
is-
stance on this.
The new
I'd be like,
question is going to be, do you believe Elon did a Nazi salute?
yeah, it's just like I don't know. Like the reason that I said the politics thing is harder to reconcile than the religion thing is because like if you have like a Jew and a Catholic dating, right? Although there are different belief sets, normally the Jew isn't like this fucking Catholic is a bad person and they're stupid, right? Whereas like a lot of times when you have people with differing political beliefs, like a lot of times they're like, this person is stupid and a bad person. Like that's like what people believe politically. They're just like,
they don't believe that the person is stupid, but my Jewish friends are more strong in their. The other person has to convert.
That's fine though. That
Or
at least comes
like,
from a place
play
of
their
like kind of
game.
like respect. Like I get it. I don't agree with what you believe, but like it's a thread
Right.
of what I believe, and so like there's a respect for that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like when people have different political beliefs these days, sometimes they're just literally like, yeah, this person's a fucking idiot. Like that's like the
Right.
like they're almost like dehumanize them, or they're just like oh, you're stupid, or worse than stupid. It's just like and I feel like there's a lot of this from the left these days, unfortunately, where it's just like these are bad people, these are evil people, these are Nazi. Like you just see the fucking Nazi words thrown around. It's just like people like they literally think you are like kind of subhuman on some level. You can't come back from that. There's not like a compromise there if people believe that. Like you just have to walk away from that, and you have to find somebody who's like on your own wavelength. I mean, do you disagree with the idea that like if you are gonna date somebody or marry somebody that like they have to be on like particular wavelength
I don't know. I think you have to have
in like
certain,
modern society?
I think you have to have certain things in common that are, as Eric said, important values.
Yeah,
and
the
if you don't
priorities need to
have
align.
those important values in line, it's going to be a very difficult journey.
But what if your partner's important like what if your partner like cares about like BLM and abortion more than like you care about like raising your kid
And
or
that's
something,
misalignment.
right?
Your priorities need to align.
Misalignment. Like you can't come back from that. You're not on the same.
Probably not. And
the
I
same
think these are the
wavelength.
things people are looking for when they're dating. They're just like filtering for those things, like what is important to
I feel
you.
like people aren't doing this, and
They're
that's
not-
like their
they're not
misstep.
doing that.
Like,
Yeah, they should be.
They should be doing
They
this.
should be.
They're not.
I feel like people are doing a very bad job of this when like this is your one job is to see where you align on your priorities against their priorities. It's that simple, and people are fucking that up.
Did you like talk about this ever with like Mino when you guys were dating?
Uh,
Like what did you remember like an early sort of like values based
I would,
conversation you
yeah,
had?
absolutely. Like I would do everything implicitly. Like I wouldn't be like, "Here are my values. What are yours?" Like,
I mean that sounds like you. I'm surprised.
I've sent you a spreadsheet.
This was going to say.
but when I talk with Mina and when I talk with other people, I talk very similarly to how we talk on Alfalfa. Like try to get into like deep convos that are interesting and see how we can dig in and you know like tear these things apart, and in doing that we sort of like reveal elements of ourselves. And I think my end game was always to see like where your value system is and where mine is and see how it aligns, and that was sort of like the goal.
See, like your situation is interesting because it's like Mina to me strikes me as a person who has strong beliefs, but also like is absolutely open to them being challenged, and like is intellectually curious enough.
Big question asker.
Yeah, you know. So it's like I think that can work well. It's like you can have strong opinions, but like
Loosely held.
yeah,
Strong beliefs, loosely held.
yeah, for sure.
I like women who are question askers.
I think that's that was my point earlier. Is like if you're with somebody and there's a huge difference of like these more important factors, can you operate on a level where you're just curious about what the other person thinks and still be misaligned? I think that can work. I think that can totally work.
100%.
And that could be like a point of laughter. That can be a point of like it could be cute thing. You can go out to parties and be like, my lefty husband still thinks that we should, you know, abort kids at 7
dude.
months
Okay,
and
this
laugh
is
about
good.
it and be like, what an idiot. And then like, I don't know. I'm obviously being
It's
you
like
know,
how there's
ridiculous
like
here, but
the
like,
husband and wife, one went to UCLA and one went to USC, and they like at the football game they like tease each other, but it's like fun at the end of the day.
yeah.
I feel like it used to be like that actually. Like I mean, we've talked about like men moderating women, and I think that happens, but like I also think that people used to just be different politically and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like people just used to be different and it wasn't like that big of a deal. Your neighbors would think differently from you and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But now it's like a big deal. Now it's like everything's like a deal breaker.
Yeah. They wouldn't throw paint on your car.
Wouldn't burn your Tesla.
Yeah.
Wouldn't draw. I remember the good old days when my neighbor wouldn't draw a swastika on my Cybertruck. It was a quaint time. It was a simpler time.
Where do you guys think we're at in terms of like the the chaos versus like alignment of everything, unification first turning. Like we've had this conversation a bunch, but like now that Trump has taken office, we're a few months into it, couple months into it. Like, is this the new beginning, the unification, or is this like no?
No, we're
have
like early
a lot of chaos,
early fourth turning.
Yeah.
I feel like you were trying to tell me before. Maybe if I'm wrong, but you were trying to tell me we're like almost through the fourth turning, and I was like, fuck,
5
it just
years. I
started.
said.
You were like, no, it
Left.
started in 2008. I'm like, oh god, I don't think so.
5 years left.
I feel like it's 5
Basi-
years left.
Basically,
Oh,
like
I hope so.
the next president.
No, I think the next president's the pendulum swing all the way back. Depends on how
but
this
then
one
that
goes.
would mean
More.
when is the peace coming?
Whichever one burns it down the most, and then you got to rebuild it.
Yeah, what if we go into like an actual economic depression like right now? Seems like it's possible.
Then you'd have maybe a unifying opportunity.
Oh, it's scary. We're like on the verge of going to two wildly different directions depending on what happens in like the next 6 months. Like I can see like Utopia flying cars meme
Hinging
and
on a
just,
few
like,
tweets.
Mad Max, right? And I don't know where to go. I see the optimistic tweets, and then I see like the fucking good Alexander's just tweeting like the most bearish shit like I've ever seen, like all the time.
Just think about it this way: if Trump has a 4-year term, at the halfway point, we'll have AGI.
What?
Yes,
We're gonna have AGI in like a year?
in less than 2 years.
Stop it.
AGI
Yes.
is such a loose definition that like you
It's
can,
a
you can say you have
very
it now.
subjective thing.
You
It's
have
a
it
very
now.
subjective thing. But
It's like being pansexual.
but like if you had an AI agent that could like do the work of a person in a company cross functionally, like that's ridiculous. Like that's a real change to society.
It's not gonna save us though.
I don't know about saving us. I'm just saying, what does it do? It changes a lot of things. It affects a lot of things. It affects the economy in ways that no one will ever be able to.
I mean, it
prepare
seems like it
for.
gives in the short run. It seems like it gives wildly more power to like corporations. Because in the short run, you own a business. Somebody just invents AGI bot that lets you replace every worker in your company. Nick's drooling over here.
Try not to smile.
Like Nick replaces all of his employees with one $20,000 a year bot that's like wildly efficient. Nick becomes like a billionaire immediately, but then like everybody like Nick fired is not doing so hot, right? And then you multiply that times 1 million or whatever, and you have a lot of like
Yeah.
disaffected, angry people that like doesn't rectify itself in like 2 years. Like maybe that rectifies itself in like a generation. Maybe the market, quote unquote, fixes things, but
It
like in
never
the short
happens
run,
like that. It happens. There's transitions. The people that become disaffected and replaced move on to new things. Like it doesn't happen overnight. They move into more productive roles.
what do they move on to?
We're already seeing the impact of that
Service-based.
now.
Everything service-based will still
We used
be a
to do
requirement.
that, but then like once you have like really good robots, a lot of the service.
Well, you described AI as being the disruptor, and like AI is not going to do the service industries. It's like
Not gonna clean your teeth.
You would need like physical robots. That's not AI. That's like
Yeah,
that's
but like
much
if I go
later.
to Denny's, like I'm very happy just having a robot, right? Like some instances where like I don't want a robot, but like there's a lot of like the majority of scenarios I'm like, yeah, just give me the fucking robot. I don't
Yeah,
wanna deal with
McDonald's
the-
has had one for like 5 years.
right,
you know?
exactly, right. So at a certain point, it's like I don't know where do all those people go. Like they're good, all like they do like just productive, wildly productive shit within like 2 years or something, or they lose their job and they get mad. They get big mad.
They get big mad until
Big
they get
mad.
the UBI check.
Yeah.
They get big mad and vote for a left populist.
Yeah, because Urbani is going to get taxed to hell when he fires all his employees and has massive profitability. That tax payment is going to go to the government. The government's going to chop that up and give it to the people. I mean, that's essentially how it's going to work, I think.
I mean, that might be why they're preemptively trying to get rid of like the income tax. Like maybe they're like, if we just get rid of this thing entirely, we do like the External Revenue Service, then in the future when they try to tax us, they can't even do it because we removed the whole mechanism from government altogether. Joke's on you. Good luck, bitches. It's 4D chess. I mean, it's kind of smart
Yeah.
in a nefarious kind of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, God, makes sense. they're like really serious about that. It seems like Lutnick's talking about it all the time. Like, do you think this could actually happen?
No.
Why?
Because if you just, in order to replace the income tax, corporate and personal, you'd have to like tariff the shit out of people. Not like a little 10% here and a 25% here. You'd have to tariff all of it massively. And you would crush businesses in the meantime. Oh my God, I saw this poor guy. He's like got a good little online business, Amazon business, and he's just like explaining the economics of his business. And man, it is looking bleak. I gotta read you guys one of his tweets here. He's like, our first container with additional 10% tariffs, increased cost is $6,600. Thing is, I do hundreds of these a year, so that's $660K a year. Also, remember there's another 10% added, so that's another $660K a year for a total of $1.3 million in additional tariffs. My net income last year was under $600K, so this should be fun. I mean, this is like a perfect example of like poof, gone.
Wait, I have a question for you actually related to this. So there's this idea you push that it's like, oh God, there's tariffs. So me as a business, like I can't front this and my business is going to go under, right? And to me, that basically is you saying, I have these increased costs and I can't pass them on to the consumer.
Right.
So they're not going to buy, right?
Right.
Doesn't that just sort of mean that the product you were selling like isn't that valuable? Like, doesn't it just mean like if you create an environment where like let's create an imaginary scenario where everybody just has like billions of dollars in their pocket, right? Suddenly, like you go on Amazon and people are selling all sorts of dumb fucking widgets, and people are just like, yeah, I'll just buy all these dumb widgets. I got billions of dollars, right? So it kind of makes sense intuitively that if you do this, you would kill off a lot of these like dumb businesses, right? And that would cause pain for the people running these businesses. Is that really bad? Like, is that really bad?
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, because those people employ other people.
Okay, it's obviously bad in the
Circular.
short run, but it's in the same way, right? Like, okay, so if we have a scenario where the government employs 90% of the country, and it's just printing money to pay the employees of the government, and the GDP is all fucking fake, right? We would all agree that that's not sustainable, and it's like fake value. Yeah. And we would also agree that if you just cut that off, you would have like a massive depression, recession,
But
right?
there's a difference between like digging a hole and filling it back up, which is like completely no productivity, than like selling a good that gives somebody like esoteric joy. You know, I think those are two different things.
Yeah,
Like,
but there's not that much diff. Like if the good is just like,
No, but it has nothing
really
to do with
widget.
how good the product is, because that already exists. Whether the product's good or bad, there's reviews. You decide to buy it. It depends on the price elasticity of that category,
yeah,
right? Like,
well, this guy skipped right over that because he said that his profitability was 660K. His profitability could still be 660K if he just increases his prices in line with the tariff and consumers still buy it. So like this guy is like skipping over that point.
no. I mean,
if consumers don't buy it, it means the product's just not
Of
that
course.
valuable.
Like,
I mean,
he
he
skipped
no,
over that.
he talked about it. He goes, trying to manufacture in the U.S. So here are some details when I tried to manufacture in the U.S. before. I used to sell a memory foam seat cushion similar to below. Here's how the process worked. First, I called 13 polyurethane factories in the U.S. I called an email.
Just tell me what the product cost increase was manufacturing in the U.S.
300 to
versus the tariff
400%.
Okay, so the tariff increase is 20%.
No, in this case, to replace the IRS, it'd have to be like 100%.
No, not to replace the IRS. For this guy to import.
Oh, currently.
Yeah, he said that his increased costs would increase by the tariff amount, which he got 2 times at 10%.
He got 20% for tariff, and
Okay,
to make
so-
in the U.S. is 300 to 400%.
Yeah, so don't manufacture in the U.S. Just charge 20% more to the consumers. If they don't want to buy it, then your product fucking sucks.
No, I mean, the problem isn't just like, okay, you make it in the U.S. or you charge more. Like, you charge $15 to $30 more on like a $30 product. That's not going to work, right? Like, your demand goes down. I've like run these split tests on different categories of product. Like, you raise the price by like 15%, and your conversion rate will drop like 25%.
I get it, but like, is it a bad thing in the long run? If it like, in some ways, in a roundabout way, right? Like if you have this like economic policy that pulls strings here and pulls strings here, and the end result is that people are making millions of dollars selling cheap widgets on Amazon, and you unwind that, and then these people are like, oh my God, my business is dead. Did you really do something bad in the end, or did you just like redirect like the resources of society to more productive places? Like if Eric was selling water. And there's no other place to get water other than to buy it from Eric. And you put a 20% tariff on the water. Like, people would still buy the water because it's a valuable
Yeah,
product
but
and they need
water
it.
has a specific price elasticity, right? Like just like cigarettes.
But I also think that like you're using price elasticity in like a very short term nature when like this has a lag effect. So like we're gonna see increased prices because of these tariffs, period.
Like the one-time jump you're talking about.
Yeah, so like this guy, whatever widget he's selling, he's like, I can't increase my prices by 20%. But when the price of everything increases by 20%, the price of his 20% increase is going to look the exact same as everybody else. It's not going to look
And
like
here's
an
the other
increase.
thing we're not talking about too. Like, if they are able to do this external revenue service, which I agree that they're not going to do, but like it's fun to postulate about, right? In a world where they tariff everything like 30%, right? But they cancel all of your income tax and everybody's income tax, everybody has more money. Maybe people are willing to pay more for shit. Maybe there is some.
Isn't that just like inflation on all fronts?
Why is that inflation? You're just like taking money.
It's just a consumption tax, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, I mean, you're fundamentally shifting the economy to like a consumption tax thing, which I think is actually good. Like, I think we
Like
should.
a VAT tax?
I think it's better to tax consumption versus taxing income. So
I think it's more fair.
I think in like a theoretical sense that
One
sounds
one
good.
one incentivizes good behavior, and the other just disincentivizes all value creation.
It's fucked. Like, if you think about it, it's just like, oh, you made all
it's
this money, now
super
give me half of
disheartening.
it, right? Like, it's like
super disheartening.
it's.
I'm
it is
just
kinda
all
fucked.
I'm asking for is like the cap gains crypto thing. Like that. Like, geez, can we just start with that?
Well, you don't
before
have
we
any
get
tax
rid of
anymore
income
because
tax?
you have no profit.
yeah, there are no gains, right? what cap gains?
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You guys have gains?
No, I think it's a fascinating experiment. I look forward to seeing how it plays out. I still remain like glad that we're trying something or we're trying interesting ideas. Like, I don't think what we were doing before was working or sustainable. Like, it was clearly.
I hope they don't.
Not
I hope
sustainable.
they don't test these ideas. I hope this is still just like a leverage play for like negotiation. I really hope they don't try to change anything because I think it's just like moving from one pocket to the other. I don't think it solves anything. Going even from like income tax to consumption tax, I think it actually makes it worse. I think you could argue that like the economy is sort of built around this like idea of like velocity of money, where like one person's spending is another person's income, and when you like slow down spending, then you like slow down the entire machine, and I think it gets worse.
Yeah, because you've built the economy around this like notion of like ever expanding like debt and everything, which is like, why
wanna-
did we do that?
You
in the
can't
first
change that.
place?
You want to reverse
can't
that?
change that,
because then
'cause
like that's
that-
society over.
that's-
Like,
We
that's
have,
ever-
but we have to reverse it at some point because the amount of humans we're creating and the amount of
But I don't
productivity
think
on
anyone's
Earth.
trying to reverse it. They might just be trying to soften it.
well, like what you're
No,
you're
we literally
suggesting-
have to stop at some point and reset everything. Like,
Well,
it's
yeah,
like a math
It
problem.
will be a reset eventually, sort of by necessity. What you're calling for is to hit reset now and like sort of like end society now.
I'm not saying to end society. I
It
think
will
we can
be.
shift around some stuff, like, or at least we can think about
no,
it.
no way we can just.
You're saying like
shift
your
around some
checking and your
stuff.
savings aren't connected, but like you're also talking about like the amount of debt that the whole globe has. You can't just get rid of it. I mean, it would implode.
I
everything
think
that you
I
know.
thought we established that there is no different game.
Yeah.
Like,
Of
to
course,
me,
there's a different game. The game is like, while you are still like the main player in town, while everybody's dependent on you and your currency, the game is to be like, hey guys, so we're gonna flip the board over, and sorry, but we're gonna reset everything, and we've got all the aircraft carriers and shit.
well, that's not a 6-month
you know,
thing.
wow,
You know.
that's catastrophic.
It is, but it's better for people in the U.S. than it is in the rest of the world, for sure.
But we can have better. We're currently better than the rest of the world, and we can like play this out sort of to perpetuity.
No, we can't play
Mexican
this out.
fisherman parable. You're already
this
there.
game ends in us like slowly dying like 100%, right? It makes a
No,
lot
on a
more
relative
sense.
basis, we're less dying than everybody else.
No, it makes way more sense to flip the board over immediately while you still have leverage over everybody.
Why?
No,
Yeah,
Why
no.
not play it
Insane.
in
Because if you let the game go for 30 years, then eventually the main leverage you have, which is your military might and the dollar reserve, erodes. Because like your aircraft carriers don't mean shit in a world where everybody has drone swarms. And like after 30 years of people diversifying away from the dollar and all of your debt, like nobody cares about the dollar anymore, right? So while people are still dependent on your reserve currency, while people are still in fear of your fucking physical war machines, it makes sense to actually flip the table over in the short run from like a game theory perspective, because you have the maximum. The longer the game plays out, the less our leverage is.
But you're describing a world where there's not a less friction path, right? Like, why can't we improve productivity? Why can't we grow our way out of it and just not, create as much debt along the way?
Darius made a great video last week about how this idea of like growing our way out via productivity is like a laughable like scam that has like no basis in like mathematics or reality, which I thought was interesting actually, because
we should play
it's
it next
something
time.
I've talked about and that like we've all talked about, and I hear a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
And we just accept that as like, oh yeah, we'll just grow our way out. And he's basically like, LOL, no.
Well, first of all, I was LOL no from the start, but also recognizing
Like
that
Eric,
that
this
was
checks out for a lot of things.
But that was like the one sort of like plausible outcome outside of just dying a slower death than everything else.
All right, here's another deal. Is like, okay, use these tariffs, okay, as the boogeyman, and then get trade deals in which they buy our debt, right? Like that
Yes.
seems to be a better
you.
better
This
path.
is the
than-
same thing. Like either way, we're talking about leveraging our might to get people to do things that are financially not beneficial to them, that financially benefit us, but that's the best of two bad decisions.
But at
yeah,
the
but
same
it's better
time-
than flipping the board over.
But that is basically flipping the board over.
No.
It is flipping the board over to be like, hey, so we're going to issue these 100-year bonds, and it'd be a real shame if you didn't buy them because
feel like
bad
you-
things might happen to you.
I feel like you just took good Alexander literally, and the next thing you're gonna say is you got to buy Ripple. Like I just think you're wrong on this.
I don't know how to buy Ripple, right? I mean, if you can explain to me like how you get out of the sort of global growth trap, then like I'm all ears. But the entire global fiat system is predicated on like ever expanding productivity because it's fueled by ever expanding debt, and then you have a human population in the West that is not only like not expanding but like actually contracting in some places, and like the math doesn't math. And there is this like idea, this like maybe it's a fantasy, maybe it's not, I don't know, but there's like a fantasy, I would say at this point, that you're going to use technology and be able to just use the technology to juice the productivity to a level that is so high that it like once again outpaces the debt growth, and we can actually pay it all back.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's
buy-
hundreds of billions of dollars betting on this exact scenario right now with
And it-
AI.
And like I would say that AI in particular right now is like short-term popped. I think AI is going to be a great thing, but it like seems very obvious to me at this
you
point.
can't
that,
talk in
AI
like
is-
decades and then compare the solution in months, or weeks.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, like I mean, the solution might take a decade to actually show its fruits of its labor.
Yeah.
And I mean, you also look at like Mr. Canary in the coal mine himself, like Ray Dalio, who's been like flashing warning signs, and he's like, let's just get the deficit to 3% of GDP, which would be painful in itself, but not like we need to pay down all the debt and reset.
See, I don't like the hybrid approach.
You
I
know,
like flip the board or play the
no,
game.
but flip the board means that like billions of people go into poverty.
Oh, I know.
billions
And I don't
of,
like that.
billions of non-US people. So you're basically advocating for a scenario where like a politician has two buttons, right? And it's just like the sweating meme, and it's just like everybody in my country stays rich, but the rest of the world gets poor, or like everybody gets equally poor and I lose my job. Like everybody's gonna hit the other button. Like everybody's gonna hit the other button.
But
That's
is
the-
there a
that's the
third
problem.
button?
Is there a third button?
I just
Yeah, the
don't-
one Nick's
I
describing.
just, yeah.
Nick's describing the other button.
I mean, listen, this goes back to our like, what is it?
Describing some beautiful, immaculate, global, soft landing,
Yeah.
deleveraging.
Well, we talked about when the debt gets too much, there's like only a handful of things you can do. You can increase productivity, you can increase growth, you can increase taxes, and you could like encourage people to buy the debt. Like we've been through
Or
this
you
before,
can
and
put
these.
a gun to their head and be like, "Sorry."
I just
encouraging
don't.
people to buy the debt that's one way to encourage.
That's
but
true.
But I
Yeah,
feel like
encourage.
all those things that Nick just listed out,
Strongly recommend.
all those things are going to happen, and have happened, and will continue to happen.
Yes, and it's my argument that like the sooner those things happen, the more leverage we have, and the better that the U.S. population.
That's not flipping the board over. That's continuing the strategy as is. That's
That
status
is
quo.
no, that is flipping the board because you're accelerating the end outcome. You're basically like, we know where this goes. Game over. I get all the money. You get some scraps. Sorry, that's like kind of the board flip.
Well, I guess if your argument, if the board flip is continuing to issue debt, continuing to grow, continuing to increase taxes, like I agree with you, then I guess that
That's
we're
a
going to
jubi-
flip
it's a
the
jubilee.
board. We're going to flip the
a
board
jubilee.
by continuing to do exactly what we've been doing for the last 40 years.
No, we jubilee. We reset everything. Great reset. 2.0, 3.0, 5.0. I know we're on a lot of resets right now. That's probably what happens. Because otherwise you're advocating for a world in which like US politicians basically decide to like sacrifice their own selves for the good of like all of humanity, which is just like a laughable outcome to me.
But isn't that what you're arguing Trump's doing right now? He's like resetting the board, going to destroy the market, going to destroy everything for the benefit of all,
For the
US
benefit of his
mankind.
own benefit in the short run and the benefit of the US.
I don't agree with this. Like, oh, we'll be fine completely, and everyone else will suffer. Like, if everyone else suffers, we'll suffer too.
No. We're
Look
going to
at-
suffer too, but we come out better on a relative basis, which is
which is where we are now.
No, but this is like World War II. Like, what happened into World War II? The whole fucking world blew up. The world, on average, was not in a good place. But because we were in the best relative position, and Sweden was in a good relative position, like, guess what happened over the next, like, couple of decades? Those places thrived because on a relative basis, they were better off.
Status quo leads.
Now,
to
I'm
the
not
same
saying
outcome.
this is morally good. I'm
No,
just like
status quo
saying, like,
leads to the
this
same
is
outcome.
how, like...
You don't need to flip the board.
No, you do need to flip the board because if you let it drag on, you lose all of your leverage. You lose your military leverage and you lose your dollar leverage.
I'm going to flip this table over right now.
Do it. Just flip it. Make a statement, man.
All right, you silence the chat. You silence them. They're just like, okay, I don't know.
I looked
Deep
at
in
the
thought.
yeah.
Deep in thought.
thought.
Everybody left. So
Everyone left.
episode's over.
All right, we'll end it there, and I'm sure we're gonna pick up this up again because we were looking at the news topics, and it's like 80% Mr. Trump these days. So I imagine it's gonna be the same going forward for a bit.
2 topics today. Only 2 topics.
But look at that. We jazzed.
Deep
had
dives.
a third. Had the space.
You like live jazz?
I love live jazz.
Steven
got to play
This is still
piano.
2 hours. I think we need to cut it down to one topic.
Marty says he likes black pilled Steven. Reset the board. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us, chat. Thanks for hanging with us throughout the pod.
times.
Yeah, good times, definitely. And yeah, join us next week,
Highlight
next
of the week.
Wednesday, 5 p.m. PST.
You had a baby earlier. This is the highlight of the week.
Wow. Cut that part.
Somebody clip
All
that.
right, I'll hit the button now. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Uh,